Hello, and welcome to the Legal Marketing Brief, the series where we showcase attorneys from across the country and learn more about the strategies they use to market successful practices. I'm John Simpson, CEO of Converted Marketing. Today, we're sitting down with Burke Barclay, a Social Security disability attorney in Dallas, Texas. And one of the things that makes Burke's story so interesting is that he didn't start practicing law until he was 37 years old. More than that, he had to pause his practice about 4 years ago. But since then, he has altered his marketing approach and he's seeing a tenfold increase in new clients. The team here at Converted Marketing has partnered with Burke for several years to generate new cases. We hope you enjoy our discussion with Burke. So, how long have you been practicing and how did you decide to become an attorney?
I took a very circuitous route to becoming an attorney. I did not go to law school till I was 37. And so, how did I become an attorney? Well, I was dead broke at 37. The 2008, 2009, 2010, you remember those 3 horrible years? I was educated but unskilled to do anything else other than what I was doing before. And there was not a market for it any longer. And so I had to reinvent myself. I had to figure a lot of things out. There was anybody that says that they had a calling to it. I guess it's not like the priesthood or anything. God didn't call me to be an attorney. It just did. And that's all that's how I became an attorney. We were making down the bed one night. And I told my wife, Karen, I said, man, I think I'm going to go to law school. And she's like, there's no way. And she was so against it. She said, there's no way you can make it through law school. Boy, real supportive wife, spouse, right? So anyway, she said, you weren't cut out to be a lawyer, blah, 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 blah. And so luckily I didn't listen to her and I made
You've
it.
probably heard the saying that behind every successful man is a surprised woman.
Exactly. Very surprised woman, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And so, okay, so you've been practicing since then. What were the skills that you had going into law school that made you think that the law could be a great profession for you?
I think I have the correct thinking on this. I don't treat practicing law as practicing law. It's a business. I've somehow managed for the majority of my life to stay self-employed. And there's some very lean years and some good years, right? And so I view being a lawyer as no different than running a marketing company or anything else. It's a business. That's the way I treat my practice. And I know that there's ethical rules and stuff like that are, but there's ethical rules to be a good businessman. There's ethical rules in anything you do. So it's not out of anything different than any other type of work. Treat people like, that you would want to be treated and everything goes okay.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And so, as you're starting this entrepreneurial endeavor of becoming a lawyer, how did you decide to go into practicing SSD?
So I went to a non-ABA school. So I was 37 years old. I could not go through traditional law school. SMU's in the Dallas area for me would have been something, but I also couldn't graduate with $150,000 in debt either. I went to, at the time, it was Concord Law School, which is online. Because it was non-ABA, I was eligible to sit for the California bar. I could have practiced anything I wanted to in the state of California because I was a California attorney, but Texas didn't reciprocate with that law license, right? So I had to find a federal practice where I could stay in Texas. I didn't even know that Social Security Administration even had a disability system until I was sitting at my desk trying to figure out what I make a living with this degree, what do I do now? The whole reason why I'm in Social Security disability law is because my wife refuses to move to California.
So
Yeah.
when you're at your best, how would your clients describe you?
Everybody has my cell phone number, my mobile number, and I always call you back by the end of the day. So I'm completely accessible to my clients. I have Shannon here in my office that she's my paralegal, and we have another assistant, but anybody can pick up the phone and call me. I think that shows empathy. You're empathetic towards their plight. I've had so many clients that have died during this process. Many of them go homeless. They're unable to work, have no place to go. And so they need somebody to talk to at times, and they can always reach me. Sometimes go like, oh my God, I cannot believe they're calling me right now. But yes, we all do that, right? But I pull it together and I call them back. I make sure that they know I care.
Been practicing for 10 years. Are there any sort of phases to the business that you can identify having been doing this for 10 years of your practice development?
Man, I would tell you that one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of your company is that it took me about 9 years to figure out how to compete in this marketplace. My first day of practice, a friend of my father's sent me $1,000, and that's actually what I started my practice with. He was, hey, congratulations, graduating from law school. Here's $1,000. And I spent it all on marketing, but on the wrong kind of marketing. So I think I'm probably like a lot of attorneys. Like you spend $2,000, $4,000, $6,000, $10,000 a month until you get sick of it, because the turnover rate, I mean, the ROI is horrendous, right? Maybe you're getting 10% on a good month, right? Then you shut it all down, and then you're like, well, you got to do something because the phone stops ringing. You stop growing. So my phases of my law practice were figuring things out of what works and what doesn't work. And so I feel like I've entered a phase where I'm figured out what works for me and what has really grown this business. So John, my dad died in 2020. And so I thought at that time, I'm just going to shut down and stop being an attorney. I dwindled my practice down to about 5 clients from 2020 to 2022. And then I started back up. I got on with you guys. And so we went from 5 clients. We're now around 250 to 300. That's how much I've grown with Converted. So this is working for me.
That's an amazing story, and nice comeback too, from winding down the practice to getting
Yeah.
it going again. This might sound like an odd question, but it's something that I would like that all of our team ask our clients so that we understand it. There are many definitions of what success looks like. Sometimes it's monetary, sometimes it's scale, sometimes it's the type of work that a lawyer wants to do. Burke, how do you define the success of your practice? Like, what does success look like to you?
Well, I mean, monetary obviously is a big factor, right? You have to go to work and be able to pay a mortgage and um, put money aside for retirement, et cetera. That's obviously a big factor. Success also, though, too, is just client satisfaction as well. Because I think when you have that, you're satisfied as well. Anybody that's an attorney that you always want to run with the big dogs, right? I mean, you always want to be like, maybe after you try it for a while, you tire of it, and you're like, I'm good. I'm good enough. I'm doing fine. Life's good. I don't have to work Saturdays, etc. But in the back of your mind, yeah, you always have to think about scalability, right? I know what the biggest Social Security disability law firms make in the United States on a yearly basis. Social Security publishes the top 500 law firms of what they get paid. Some of those guys are pulling in 13, 14, $15 million a year. To me, that, and I should never even use these words, but that's not conceivable in my brain. Like, how do you get that big, right? That's obviously would be a measure of success. If you made the top 500, and I'm not even sniffing the top 500 yet, but I'm trying.
You mentioned something important there about client satisfaction, and I'm just sort of curious if you have like an anonymized client story of what you were able to do for a client that helps you feel like you've achieved success.
One of my clients was with me in Dallas. She moved to Tulsa. The case was transferred to Tulsa. She moved back to Wills Point, which was 2 hours east of Dallas. And then her hearing came up. I drove from Dallas to Wills Point, Texas, which is in the middle of nowhere, 2 hours east, and then drove to Tulsa and had her hearing, and then drove her back home and then me back home. Yeah, those are the kind of things I was doing. I was especially doing when I started practicing, man. It just, I had a client that moved from Dallas to Peoria, Illinois. And I thought, well, I've never seen Abraham Lincoln's house. Drove to Peoria, and I thought, well, My hearing wasn't until 2 o'clock, so I did the tour of Lincoln's house and then got dressed
By the way,
and then
I've
drove
lived in
home.
Illinois, I've lived in Illinois my whole life. I've never been to Lincoln's house.
It's great. It's a great field trip. I tell you, it's awesome.
Well, let me switch gears in a little bit and talk a little bit more about marketing. So, how long have you been advertising online? Was it when you rebuilt your practice with
Man,
converted
day one,
marketing?
day one,
Okay,
I knew where you had to put your dollars to compete. Absolutely, day one.
and what we hear from a lot of lawyers is I can't afford to do pay per click or lead generation, and I'm just sort of curious. Like to me, there's a chicken and the egg thing that's happening there, right? Why do you think so many lawyers struggle with the idea of spending on pay per click marketing or lead
Because
generation?
they're lawyers, they're not businessmen. They can't think past the courtroom. That's their obstacle that they're going to have to get past. There are some good practices that word of mouth, and you don't need to advertise. The days of, like when you drive into downtown, you go by the courthouse and there's nothing but lawyers and bail bondsmen there. Those days are gone, because with a phone in your hand, even if you have somebody that goes to jail, nobody's going to drive around. My wife is the last person in the world, literally in the world, that gets in the car and goes to different uh, stores to check prices. She refuses to even do it online, right? So, but she's the last one. Everybody else gets on the phone and starts scrolling for services. It is what it is. I understand they don't want to pay they don't want to pay to advertise and market their law practice, but if you're going to compete, that's the only way right now to compete. And maybe the rules change somewhere down the road, but right now it's the only way.
So, what do you think is the key to retaining a prospect that is coming inbound through a lead generation effort?
Well, for right now, talking to me or Shannon, they all call and say, "Can I? I'd like to have a consultation, schedule a consultation." And if I answer the phone, I've got time to talk. So I just say, "Well, let's have one right now." And they're always shocked, like, "Okay, you're the attorney? Yeah, tell me what you got."
And in circumstances where you're tied up, what does the intake process look like with Shannon? I assume it goes to Shannon.
A lot of times, uh, I get a notice from Convertit, and like I told you about calling my clients back, I try to call all my leads back as quick as possible. I can't tell you how many times people have called my office and said that you're the first person to return my phone call.
I'm this person. I am shocked, and but having worked with lawyers, I'm not surprised.
When my father passed away, we have a family business, and it's not important what the business does, but what I've tried to instill in those employees is that we are a customer service company first. It's just coincidental that we do another product on top of that, right? So if you treat your law practice that way, like I'm in the customer service business, the fact that I can finagle my way around a legal proceeding is irrelevant, actually. You know what I'm saying? It's not irrelevant. That's
Yeah.
not the way to say it. But that's, if you have that mindset, you'll do just fine.
Hey, it's funny, Burke. I used to go to all these general counsel panels in my previous life, and I remember somebody asking a general counsel who hired a lot of outside counsel, is your outside counsel any good? And he goes, I don't know. But what I know is he's on it and he responds to me and he keeps me updated. I have no idea if he's a great lawyer, but he's good enough and he's great at customer service.
Yeah. When I was graduating from law school, there was a word of advice given to us by a professor. What he said was, when you start practicing law, your clients, for the most part, don't care where you went to law school, what your grades were, anything like that. They want to know: are you going to be kind to them? Are you going to be empathetic to their plight? Are you going to take their phone call? That's 95% of the battle right there.
Yeah, that's such a great point.
If you're talking to an attorney that is maybe just now starting out on their own, they're looking at how do I grow my practice? Invest in your practice just like you would any other business. Everybody wants to be the best lawyer best whatever. I get it. There's a lot of competition out there, and there's a lot of smart people in the world, right? Especially in the lawyer field. There's lots of smart lawyers out there. But if you can just invest in your business and grow it organically, you will have success. But you've got to invest in it. You really do. And if you have to go get a job waiting tables at night so you can have enough scratch to pay convert it to grow your business, go do it. Don't be above that.